you hear it? In the stillness of the night, there are always nameless whispers, voices hiding in the shadows, waiting for those who dare to listen. Welcome to Whispers in the Dark, where fear never sleeps, and ghostly tales continue to live on in the darkness.
The man in aisle 7, they say every Walmart has its ghosts. And if you've ever stepped into one after midnight, you'll know what I mean. The bright white lights don't make it feel safe. They make it feel emptier. The aisles stretch on forever. The air conditioning hums like a machine that never rests. And every step you take echoes against polished linoleum, like you're the last person left alive. That was the world Margaret Chen lived in. She'd been on the Riverside Walmart night shift for 3 years. By now, she thought she'd seen it all. Drunks stumbling in for more beer, insomniacs wandering the toy aisle at 2 a.m., teenagers daring each other to film TikToks in the dressing rooms. But there's a difference between a shopper and something else. And at 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning, Margaret noticed something was very wrong. She was watching the monitors in the security office when her eyes caught movement, or rather, the lack of it. A man in aisle 7. Just standing there. He wasn't shopping. He wasn't even pretending to shop. For 23 minutes, he hadn't moved an inch. His gaze locked onto the same row of cereal boxes, brightly colored mascots grinning down under the buzzing fluorescent lights. Margaret leaned closer to the screen, squinting. The black dome camera above him reflected part of his face, and that's when she saw it. His eyes, or rather the hollowness of them. They didn't look blank exactly. They looked fixed, focused on something no one else could. See, Margaret froze, because she knew this story. When she was a kid growing up in Fresno, there was a rumor that went around middle school. The 3 a.m. man. A figure who appeared in all-night stores. Target, Walmart, gas stations. People said if you looked too long into his eyes, you'd lose track of time. Hours would pass, and when you woke up, you'd be holding something in your hands. Something you didn't remember picking up. It was one of those playground stories kids tell each other. But Margaret remembered it clearly, because back then her cousin Lisa swore she'd seen him in a Kmart. Lisa never laughed when she told it. Now staring at the monitor, Margaret felt her stomach twist, the silence of the store pressed down around her. At night, Walmart doesn't sound like it does during the day. It isn't the chatter of families, the beeping of registers, the squeak of carts. It's the drone of refrigeration units, the distant rattle of stock pallets, the occasional metallic creak as if the building itself is breathing. And tonight, every sound seemed sharper, more hollow. Margaret's radio crackled. It was Juan, another night employee. "Hey, Maggie. You see aisle 7? Her throat went dry. "Yeah," she whispered back. Juan chuckled nervously. "Guy's been there forever. I walked past him, he didn't blink, didn't even notice me, felt like..." His voice trailed off, and for a second all she could hear was static. Like he was waiting. Waiting. The word clawed at the back of her mind. Margaret adjusted the camera feed, zooming closer on the man's hands. They hung stiff at his sides. Pale. Too pale. And for a split second she thought she saw something clenched between his fingers. A slip of paper, maybe. Or was it her imagination? Here's the thing no one tells you about working the night shift in a Walmart. Sometimes the store doesn't feel like a store. Sometimes under the harsh fluorescent glow, the empty aisles stretch out into something else, like a place that isn't meant for people. And as Margaret kept watching the man in aisle 7, she began to wonder if she was the one trapped in there with him, or if he was trapped in there with her. Margaret couldn't shake the feeling that the man wasn't alone. Yes, he stood there motionless. Yes, his gaze was fixed on the cereal boxes, but in the black dome above him, the mirrored eye of the Walmart security system, his reflection looked different, off, like the hollow eyes weren't looking at cereal at all, but straight back at her. She shivered, rubbing her arms. "Juan," she whispered into her radio. "Where are you right now?" Static hissed for a beat too long before his voice returned. "Break room. Didn't feel right staying near him." Didn't feel right. Margaret pushed back her chair, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum of the office floor. Against her better judgment. She walked out into the store. The air felt colder in the aisles. It was the same Walmart she'd walked through hundreds of times, but it didn't feel the same. The shelves loomed higher, the lights hummed louder, and every step echoed down the endless stretch of tile. When she reached aisle 7, her breath caught in her throat. The man was still there. Up close, he was taller than she expected. His skin, almost gray under the fluorescent bulbs. His hands hung limp, but in his right palm, yes, there was something. A scrap of receipt paper. Margaret swallowed. "Sir, are you all right?" Her words sounded thin, swallowed by the cavernous silence of the store. No response, no blink. Then, in one motion so subtle she almost missed it, the man turned his head, not toward her, not toward the cereal, toward the black dome camera above, and smiled. Margaret stumbled back, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her radio crackled again. Juan's voice, shaky now. "Maggie, don't freak out, but check camera 10, the toy aisle." With trembling fingers, she pulled her phone from her pocket and opened the security feed app. Camera 10. And there he was. The same man, same posture, same hollow eyes, standing in the toy aisle. But when Margaret looked up from the screen, he was still right in front of her. A chill crawled up her spine. "Juan," she hissed into the radio, "he's in both places." But the line only spat static back at her. She blinked and the man's hand rose. The scrap of receipt paper fluttered to the floor. Margaret hesitated, then leaned down, her fingers trembling as she picked it up. It wasn't a receipt. It was a slip of printer paper, the kind Walmart used for daily sales logs. Only this one had a time scrawled across it in shaky black ink. 47, the exact minute she'd noticed him on the monitor. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She dropped the paper and backed away, but the man didn't follow. He only stood there, hollow. Eyes locked on the camera dome, smile carved across his face. By the time the sun rose and her shift ended, aisle 7 was empty. No man. No scrap of paper. But when the day manager came in, he found something strange in the break room, where Juan had been. Another slip of paper. Same shaky handwriting. This one read, "Next time, don't look." And here's the part that makes even seasoned detectives question reality. Over the next 6 months, the man was reported in 11 different Walmarts across 3 states. Always between 3 and 4 a.m. Always standing still, always leaving behind a message that matched the exact time the employee had first noticed him. And Margaret? She never worked another night shift again. But sometimes, driving past the Riverside Walmart after dark, she swore she saw a figure standing at the edge of the automatic doors, waiting. The Walmart Stalker. You know, there are places we go every day that feel safe, familiar, almost boring in how ordinary they are. But what if that very normal place, brightly lit, full of families and workers just trying to get through, their shifts, suddenly turned into the backdrop of something much darker? This story takes us to Columbus, Ohio, to a Walmart supercenter in 2017, where the aisles of cereal boxes and endless fluorescent lights became the stage for a slow, terrifying descent into obsession. The beginning Kenny Morrison. That was his name. At first glance, he was just another middle-aged man. Nothing remarkable. He blended into the Walmart crowd so easily that no one thought twice about him being there. But the truth was, Kenny wasn't shopping. He was hunting. It all started with what should have been a minor disagreement. Amanda Chen, a cashier, had refused his return on a piece of electronics. She explained the policy. Calm, professional, just like she had done with a dozen other customers before him. But something in Kenny snapped. Instead of leaving, instead of being embarrassed or angry in the normal way, he stayed. 4 hours. Walking through the store, following Amanda during her breaks, lifting his phone, pretending to check messages but clearly photographing her. He even approached other employees, asking about Amanda, what time she worked, whether she was single, where she lived. By the time security escorted him out, Amanda was already shaken. And Kenny? He just smiled and said, "I'll be back tomorrow. Amanda and I aren't finished talking yet." The pattern, and he was true to his word. Every single day for the next 3 weeks, Kenny came back, always during Amanda's shifts, always lingering near her register. He never did quite enough to get thrown out again. He was careful, calculated, hovering, just far enough to make his presence known, but not so close that anyone could legally stop him. Amanda tried to focus on her work, but every time she looked up, there he was. Those pale eyes staring at her from the end of an aisle. Motionless. One night, she broke down crying in the break room. Another cashier found her shaking, unable to eat, and that's when people started to notice something else about Kenny. He seemed to know the store better than some employees, which doors they used after midnight, which aisles stayed dark when the bulbs went out, how the late-night intercom always glitched, repeating the same distorted announcement over and over. Again, Walmart. After midnight, if you've never been inside a Walmart at 3 a.m., let me tell you, it's not the busy, buzzing place you see during the day. At night, it feels wrong. The aisles echo when you walk. The fluorescent lights flicker and hum, and sometimes entire sections are empty, with pallets of shrink-wrapped goods towering like silent walls. That was Kenny's hunting ground. Amanda would be mopping in aisle 12, and suddenly the intercom would crackle. Cleanup needed. Aisle 12. Aisle 12. No one had called it in. But when she looked up, Kenny would be standing there at the end of the aisle, grinning. The shadows around him stretching longer than they should under the buzzing lights. Expanding. The obsession Amanda wasn't his only target for long. When customer service rep Lisa Park refused to override a price match for him, Kenny added her to his obsession. Within days, he knew what car she drove, which door she used when she clocked in, where she parked. He would sit in the lot before her shift started. Engine off. Windows fogged. Just waiting. And after midnight, when Lisa left through the employee exit, Kenny would be leaning against his car, hands in his pockets, watching her walk alone through that empty asphalt. The managers tried to stop it. They issued trespass warnings. But Kenny had studied the law. He knew exactly how long he had to wait before coming back, and every return felt like a taunt. The symbols then. Came the symbols. At first it seemed like a coincidence. A pyramid of cereal boxes perfectly stacked in front of Amanda's register one morning, though no employee remembered building it. Later, someone found dozens of disposable cameras left, scattered across the electronics section. Every single one already used. Every single one containing photographs of Amanda and Lisa at work. But the worst came one night in the break room. Amanda opened her locker and froze. Inside were Polaroid pictures, blurry, poorly lit, but unmistakable. They showed her standing, in the Walmart parking lot, walking to her car, even sleeping at her own apartment window, blinds slightly open, she screamed. And when security reviewed the cameras, the grainy footage showed Kenny slipping into the break room after hours, methodically opening lockers one by one until he found hers. The fear spreads by now. The entire night shift was on edge. Employees whispered in hushed tones during their breaks. Some refused to park alone. Others begged to switch shifts just so they wouldn't overlap with Amanda or Lisa. Because that's when Kenny always came. Even customers noticed. The whole atmosphere of the Walmart changed. That big, bright store, once a place people went for groceries or cheap holiday decorations, started to feel more like a trap. Every flicker of the lights, every squeal of a shopping cart's wheel, it all sounded like Kenny's footsteps. And he seemed to love it. The fear, the way people stiffened when they saw him, the way Amanda clutched her keys like weapons when she walked to her car. The peak Kenny's obsession reached its peak 18 months later. He began calling in complaints, filing false reports about Amanda and Lisa, saying they'd stolen or cursed at him or broken company policy. The paperwork piled up. Managers wasted hours chasing down his lies, and then, one night, Amanda left her shift just after 2 a.m. The store was almost empty. The lights in the garden section had burned out, leaving the aisles pitch dark. As she walked past, she heard something, the squeak of a shopping cart, moving slowly in the shadows. Her stomach dropped, and when she glanced down the aisle she saw it, a cart filled to the brim with dolls. Every single one had its eyes scratched out, and taped to the front was a Polaroid of Amanda herself. Her eyes scribbled out the same way. She ran, tears streaming down her face. Security reviewed the cameras the next day, and there he was, Kenny Morrison, methodically placing each doll into the cart, arranging them just so, waiting, like he wanted her to find it. The end of the line. Not long after, Kenny made his biggest mistake. One night, Amanda stepped away from her register for a short break. She noticed movement behind her, turned around, and saw Kenny slipping into the employees-only hallway that led to the restrooms. That was the line. Managers called the police immediately. This time, the evidence was undeniable. When officers searched his car, what they found chilled everyone. Folders filled with surveillance notes, photographs, work schedules, maps of the Walmart floor plan with Amanda's routes highlighted. And in the trunk, a shrine, pictures of Amanda and Lisa taped in neat rows, surrounded by little trinkets he had stolen from the store. The aftermath: Kenny was sentenced to 5 years for stalking, harassment, and violating restraining orders. But the damage was done. Amanda developed panic attacks so severe she had to leave. Retail work forever. Lisa moved away completely, changing her phone number and car. Other employees quit, saying the store never felt safe again. And late at night, when the new hires walk those endless aisles under the buzzing fluorescent lights, some of them swear they can still feel it. The weight of eyes watching from the end of the row. Because here's the thing. For Kenny Morrison, Walmart wasn't just a store. It was a hunting ground, and he turned it into something the employees will never forget. You see, stories like this don't end just because someone goes home and locks their door. When the terror follows you, when it slips into your routines, your family life, the places you're supposed to feel safe, that's when you realize you're trapped. Amanda at home after the doll cart incident, Amanda Chen tried everything to restore a sense of normalcy. She bought blackout curtains. She changed her route home. She even parked her car 3 blocks away thinking it might throw Kenny off. But it didn't matter. Because the paranoia wasn't just in the Walmart anymore. It was in her apartment. Amanda lived alone in a small, second-story unit in a quiet Columbus neighborhood. At night she kept the TV on just for the noise, but sometimes she swore she could hear something underneath it. The creak of the floorboards, the faint buzz of a phone vibrating. Once, she even heard her name whispered from the hallway. And then came the photos. She found the first one tucked under her doormat. Grainy, blurry shot of her standing at the register, taken from an angle that only an employee, or someone watching very closely, could have captured. A week later, she found another. This one was of her walking home from work, her head bent, her purse clutched close. She didn't even remember that moment, but Kenny had been there close enough to snap it. Amanda didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that Polaroid. She taped her windows shut. She shoved a chair under the doorknob, but deep down she knew, if Kenny wanted to get in, he would. Lisa's private terror, Lisa Park's life wasn't much better. She had taken to leaving her shift with a group of co-workers, but sometimes she had to walk out alone. And every time, Kenny was waiting. He never touched her, never spoke, just leaned against his car, a small smile playing across his lips as if he knew something she didn't. One night, she arrived home and found her front porch covered in Walmart shopping bags, empty. Dozens of them, as if someone had carefully placed them there one by one. Inside one of the bags was a receipt. No items purchased, just her name printed at the bottom, where she had once handled a transaction. Lisa called the police. They filed a report. But without direct threats, without video of him placing those bags, there wasn't much they could do. That was the worst part. The helplessness. Because Kenny wasn't breaking the rules in the obvious ways. He was bending them, stretching them, using every crack in the system to slip deeper into their lives. The break room confession all came to a head one night in the employee break room. Amanda and Lisa sat at the plastic table, styrofoam cups of coffee in front of them. They were pale, exhausted. Their hands shook as they talked. "I can't do this anymore," Amanda whispered. "Every time I close my eyes, I see him." Lisa nodded, staring down at her untouched coffee. "He was outside my apartment last night," she said. Her voice cracked. "I didn't see him. But I knew. I felt it. The blinds were open and I swear I could feel him watching." Neither of them realized that Kenny was on the other side of the wall, listening, smiling, soaking in their fear like it was exactly what he wanted. The holiday shift. It was early November when the store began setting up for the holidays. Artificial Christmas. Trees lined the seasonal aisle. Red and green lights blinked overhead, but even with the decorations, the store felt colder than ever. Amanda had been assigned a late shift, cleaning up displays after Black Friday weekend. The aisles were a wreck. Clothes strewn across the floor, carts left abandoned mid-row. At around 2:30 a.m., the intercom buzzed. Static. Then a voice. "Amanda Chen to aisle 7. Amanda Chen to aisle 7. Her blood ran cold. Management never called employees by name over the speaker. And when she glanced toward aisle 7, she saw it. Every single stuffed Santa doll had been arranged in a perfect circle, their black button eyes staring out, and in the center of that circle was another Polaroid. Amanda bent over her register, the timestamp marked just 1 hour earlier. Someone had taken that picture while she was working, and then placed it here. She screamed. Security came running. But by the time they got there, the aisle was empty. And the cameras? The feed had glitched out for 20 full minutes. Breaking point by now. The employees were begging corporate to intervene. The managers were overwhelmed. Even the night security guards confessed they didn't feel safe. But Kenny thrived on it. Every restriction made him more inventive. Every new rule, he twisted into another game. The night he followed Amanda toward the employees-only restroom, the managers finally had proof. They called the police. They arrested him, and that's when the full scope of his obsession came to light. The shrine inside his car. Investigators found folders of notes, detailed maps of the Walmart floor plan, schedules, names. But the most disturbing thing was the trunk. Taped to the inside lid were photographs of Amanda and Lisa, arranged like portraits, surrounded by trinkets, stolen from Walmart shelves, a name tag, a keychain flashlight, a child's backpack, half-melted candles, and at the very center was the receipt from Lisa's register, her name circled in red ink. The end. Or not. Kenny was sentenced to 5 years, and the employees tried to move on. Amanda quit retail for good. Lisa moved across the state. Other workers quietly slipped away too, but that Walmart never really shook its reputation. New hires whispered about it during training. Some swore that when they worked the night shift, the intercom would crackle to life at 3:47 a.m., the exact time Amanda first noticed something was wrong, calling her name even though she hadn't worked there in years. Others said they saw a man's reflection in the security dome above aisle 7, standing perfectly still, staring, even when the aisle itself was empty. So the next time you're walking through a Walmart after midnight, and you feel the hum of the lights, the echo of your footsteps, just remember, not every customer is there to shop. Some of them are there to watch, and some of them, like Kenny Morrison, are waiting for someone just like you. You'd think that with Kenny Morrison locked away, the story would end there. 5 years in prison, a restraining order. A chance for Amanda, Lisa, and the rest of the night crew to finally breathe again. But here's the thing about trauma. It doesn't end just because the paperwork says it should, and sometimes the story doesn't end at all. The aftermath nobody talks about. After Kenny's arrest, the Riverside Walmart quietly replaced most of the staff. Turnover in retail is normal, but this wasn't normal. Employees who'd worked the night shift for years suddenly quit, no explanation given. When new hires came in, they weren't told the full story. Management brushed it off as a few security issues, but among the workers rumors spread like wildfire, and the strangest part? People swore that the store still felt like Kenny was there. The dome reflection, one of the most common stories, came from aisle 7, the cereal aisle. That was where Amanda first spotted him, where he had stood for 23 minutes without moving. And according to the new employees, that was where he never really left. They said if you walked down aisle 7 at night and looked up at the black dome of the security camera, you'd sometimes see something wrong. Your reflection wouldn't be alone. A second figure stood behind, you just far enough back that you couldn't quite make out his face. Sometimes he was holding a shopping cart, sometimes nothing at all. But always staring, and when you turned around, the aisle would be empty. The intercom voice. Another story came from the stalkers. They claimed that around 3:47 a.m., always the same time, the intercom would crackle to life. Static first, then a voice. Sometimes it whispered. Sometimes it was clear as day. But it always said the same thing. Amanda Chen to aisle 7. It didn't matter that Amanda had quit years ago. It didn't matter that the intercom wasn't supposed to call individual employees by name. The voice kept coming back, shift after shift. And when managers checked the logs, no one had made the announcement, the cart that moves on its own. Then there was the story of the empty cart. One night, 2 employees were zoning merchandise near the toy section. The store was dead quiet. That's when they heard it. The squeak of wheels. Down the far end of the aisle, a shopping cart began rolling forward, slow at first, then picking up speed. No one was pushing it. No one was near it. The employees froze, watching as the cart rolled straight toward them before slamming into a shelf with enough force to knock toys to the floor. And when they looked inside the cart, there was a single Polaroid photograph, a picture of aisle 7, completely empty. Amanda's return years later, Amanda tried to move on. She'd built a new life in another city. But trauma doesn't work like that. Sometimes she'd wake up at night to the sound of carts squeaking. Sometimes she'd find receipts slipped under her door with nothing on them but her name. She told herself it was just paranoia, her mind replaying the worst years of her life, until the night she went back. It was supposed to be quick. She was driving through Columbus, visiting family, and on a whim she stopped by the old Walmart. She wanted closure. She wanted to see it one more time, prove to herself it was just a building. But when she walked in, the fluorescent hum hit her like a punch. The aisles looked the same. The smell of plastic and cleaning supplies hadn't changed. And as she wandered toward aisle 7, she felt it, that weight in the air, that pressure. She looked up at the dome, and there he was. Not her reflection, not her shadow, but Kenny, standing, perfectly still, smiling, eyes locked on hers, and then the intercom buzzed. Amanda Chen to aisle 7. Amanda Chen to aisle 7. Her family said she came home pale, shaking, unable to speak for hours. After that night, she never mentioned Walmart again. The legend of Kenny Morrison today. The Riverside Walmart is just another store. People shop there every day. Most of them have no idea what happened. But ask the night crew. Ask the stalkers who keep their heads down and avoid aisle 7. Ask the cashiers who flinch whenever the intercom crackles at 3:47 a.m. They'll tell you the same thing. Kenny Morrison might be locked away. He might even be dead for all they know. But his presence never left. The store remembers him. The walls, the cameras, the intercom, they carry his obsession like a scar. And if you work the night shift long enough, you'll feel it too. That certainty that someone is watching you, waiting for you, following you down every aisle. Because Walmart isn't just a store. Not at 3:47 a.m. It's a hunting ground. And once it's chosen you never really leave. The internet gets involved. For years, the story of Kenny Morrison was just local gossip in Columbus. Employees whispered about it in break rooms. Teenagers dared each other to walk down aisle 7 at night. But then a Reddit thread appeared. The post was titled, "Does anyone else's Walmart intercom call Amanda Chen at 3:47 a.m.? It wasn't written by Amanda. It wasn't even from Columbus. It was from someone in Oklahoma. The user claimed they were stocking shelves when, out of view, nowhere, the intercom announced the same words people in Riverside had heard for years. Amanda Chen to aisle 7. The kicker? Their store didn't even have an aisle 7. The spread after that post, others chimed in. A cashier in Nevada said they'd seen a man in a faded denim jacket staring blankly at a wall of cereal. When she blinked, he was gone. A security guard in Florida swore that the black dome camera sometimes reflected a figure holding a shopping cart, even when the aisle was empty. A truck driver in Texas claimed he picked up a receipt from the Walmart parking lot. On the back, in faint pencil, was the name, Amanda Chen. At first, people thought it was a prank, but the stories kept coming. Different states, different stores, always after midnight, always Walmart, always aisle 7. The challenge on TikTok, it became a trend. Users called it The Aisle 7 Challenge. The rules were simple. Go to Walmart between 3 and 4 a.m. Walk down aisle 7, film the security dome. Most videos were just kids laughing nervously, nothing happening. But a few went viral. One clip showed the dome reflecting 3 figures, even though only 2 friends were in the aisle. Another captured the faint squeak of cartwheels when no carts were nearby. And one, the most infamous, ended abruptly when the intercom blared, "Amanda Chen to aisle 7, before the phone cut to static. The uploader never posted again. The Mandela effect as the legend spread. A strange detail emerged. Some people swore they remembered hearing about Kenny Morrison years earlier, long before Amanda Chen's story went public. Some insisted they'd seen his mugshot in newspapers, even though no archived articles could be found. Others remembered his name being whispered in school hallways like Bloody Mary or Candyman. But official records? Nothing. No mugshots, no court transcripts, no trace of a Kenny Morrison in Ohio state records. It was as if he never existed. And yet thousands of people knew his name. The receipts? Then came the receipts. Customers from across the country started finding blank Walmart receipts at random. No items listed, just a timestamp of 3:47 a.m. And at the bottom, instead of "Thank you for shopping at Walmart," a single line, "Amanda Chen, aisle 7. Collectors began trading them on eBay. Prices skyrocketed. Some buyers claimed the receipts were cursed, that after owning one they'd hear carts squeaking outside their homes at night. One man said he woke up to find a shopping cart parked in his driveway. Inside it, another receipt, time-stamped exactly 1 minute after the first. The dark turn by 2023, the legend of Kenny Morrison wasn't just a ghost story, it was a ritual. Forums claimed that if you went to Walmart at 3:47 a.m. and stood in aisle 7 with a receipt in your hand, you could summon him. Some said he would appear in the dome reflection. Others said you'd hear the intercom whisper your name instead of Amanda's. And a few insisted that if you stayed too long, you wouldn't walk out of Walmart at all. The store would close around you. The lights would dim. The aisles would stretch, bending into hallways that didn't exist on the map. And somewhere, in the endless glow of fluorescent light, you'd hear the wheels of a shopping cart getting closer and closer. Amanda vanishes. In late 2024, Amanda Chen disappeared. Neighbors reported seeing her leave for work one morning, but she never came home. Her car was found abandoned in a Walmart parking lot 3 states away. The keys were still in the ignition. Security footage showed her walking toward the store entrance. She looked nervous, checking over her shoulder. But here's the part that rattled everyone. The timestamp on the footage was 3:47 a.m., and the moment she reached the sliding doors, the video cut out. When it resumed, the entrance was empty. Amanda Chen was never seen again. The final whisper today. The story of Kenny Morrison and Amanda Chen has become more than an urban legend. It's a cautionary tale, a test of courage, and, for some, an obsession. But the night crews will tell you this. If you're ever in Walmart between 3 and 4 a.m., avoid aisle 7. Don't look at the dome. Don't listen to the intercom. And whatever you do, don't answer when it calls your name, because once the Walmart stalker knows who you are, you're already his next receipt. The pattern researchers of paranormal folklore noticed something unsettling. Every town where the Kenny Morrison legend surfaced, Amanda Chen sightings, mysterious receipts, intercom calls, shared the same eerie detail. Within a year, the local Walmart expanded, sometimes a small remodel, sometimes a brand new supercenter, always bigger, always brighter, always swallowing up smaller businesses in its radius, and always after the first aisle, 7 reports. It was as if the stories themselves fertilized the ground, like folklore was food. The more people whispered about Kenny Morrison, the more the store grew. The Labyrinth Theory in 2025, a group of college students broke into an abandoned Walmart in Kentucky. They planned to live stream themselves exploring it. The store had been closed for nearly a decade, its shelves stripped bare, dust and graffiti everywhere. At first, the stream was boring, just kids with flashlights laughing, but then they realized something was wrong. The store was bigger inside than out. They measured it, an aisle that should have been 40 feet stretched on for over 200. Doors led to corridors that didn't exist. On the building plans, security domes reflected shapes that weren't in the frame. The stream ended with the camera dropping to the floor. The last thing viewers heard was the squeak of cartwheels. None of the students came back. The police claimed it was just an abandoned site, nothing strange. But the VOD of the stream showed the truth. Walmart wasn't a store. It was a maze, and it was still growing. Receipts as contracts folklorists began re-examining the blank receipts, the ones stamped 3:47 a.m., the ones that only said Amanda Chen. Aisle 7. They realized the paper wasn't just blank. It was unfinished, like a contract waiting to be signed. One researcher from Ohio State scanned a receipt under ultraviolet light. Hidden text appeared. This purchase is final. No returns. Another analyst discovered the numbers on the barcode didn't match Walmart's system. Instead, they corresponded to missing persons case numbers. Every receipt was a record of someone lost. Every timestamp marked the moment the store claimed them, the corporate silence. When journalists asked Walmart's corporate offices about the phenomenon, they refused to comment. Instead, reporters received cease and desist letters. In one leaked email, an executive wrote, "We do not encourage or acknowledge the dissemination of dangerous folklore related to our brand. Continued focus on this subject only encourages copycat incidents." But an internal memo told another story. It instructed managers nationwide to keep aisle 7 under surveillance, log all intercom malfunctions, confiscate any unexplained receipts from customers. The memo ended with a chilling note. Do not speak the name Kenny Morrison aloud within store property. Amanda's return in late 2025, security footage from a Walmart in Arizona went viral. At 3:47 a.m., the sliding doors opened. A woman walked inside, thin, tired, eyes blank. It was Amanda Chen. But she didn't look like herself. Her movements were stiff, mechanical. She pushed a shopping cart slowly down aisle 7, never blinking, never stopping. The tape ended with her standing at the end of the aisle, staring into the dome camera. Mouth moving. No audio. Lip readers claimed she was saying one phrase over and over, "You're next, you're next, you're next." The hunger. The theory now is that Walmart isn't just a company. It's a living organism, a parasite of concrete and steel. It feeds on attention, on folklore, on fear. The stalker, the receipts, the intercom, they're just tools, symptoms of something deeper. And when you shop there, every beep at the register isn't just a transaction. It's a pulse, a heartbeat, a reminder that the store is alive, watching, waiting. And when you linger too long, you're not just a customer, you're inventory. The last whisper: if you ever find yourself in Walmart late at night, especially around 3:47 a.m., watch the intercom, check the dome reflections, and whatever you do, never follow Amanda Chen into aisle 7, because once the store notices you, it doesn't let go. Walmart doesn't just sell things, it collects them. And one day you'll look down at your receipt and realize You weren't shopping, you were being purchased. The Loop. The folklorists who tracked Kenny Morrison noticed something terrifying. The stories didn't just spread by word of mouth or whispered rumors anymore. They spread online. First Reddit threads, then YouTube videos, then TikToks and podcasts. Every retelling added new details. Aisle 7, 3:47 a.m. Amanda Chen's voice on the intercom. And every time the legend was repeated, another Walmart expanded. Another receipt surfaced. Another customer disappeared. The myth wasn't just folklore anymore. It was contagion. The cursed post in 2026, a Reddit user posted a long account of the legend. They claimed their cousin worked night shift and had seen the stalker himself. The post went viral. Tens of thousands read it. Hundreds commented that, after reading, they found strange receipts in their own homes, receipts they didn't remember getting. Blank, stamped 3:47 a.m. The original poster deleted their account 2 days later. Their last comment simply read, "He's here." The intercom that reaches beyond soon, people began reporting intercom glitches outside Walmart. A woman in Chicago swore she heard Amanda Chen, aisle 7, coming through her baby monitor at night. A trucker claimed his CB radio played the announcement on loop when he passed an abandoned supercenter. Someone else heard it faintly, buried under static during a Zoom meeting. The store wasn't just a building anymore, it was bleeding into everything. The receipt you're holding, if you've read this far, check your desk, your pocket, your trash can. Sometimes the receipts don't appear right away. Sometimes they wait until you remember the story again, in the middle of the night or when you step into a brightly lit store, or when you hear the faint buzz of an intercom speaker. You'll notice it when the timestamp is wrong. When it always says 3:47 a.m., no matter when you find it. When the cashier's name reads Amanda Chen. And then you'll know. You're not the customer anymore. You're the purchase. The final inventory. There's one last whisper in this story. Folklorists say that when a tale grows strong enough, it becomes alive. It consumes belief the way fire consumes oxygen. And every time you tell it, read it, think about it, you're feeding it. This story right now, as you finish it, is just another aisle, another product, another receipt waiting to print. Listen closely. Do you hear it? The soft crackle of an intercom, faint but steady. Amanda Chen, aisle 7. Amanda Chen, aisle 7. And if you turn your head just slightly, you might catch your reflection, not in a mirror but in the nearest dark screen. The ceiling above aisle 3, people go to Walmart for groceries, school supplies, cheap clothes. It's a place you don't really think twice about. Bright lights, endless aisles, the same background music looping on repeat. But for Janet Williams, the fitting rooms at the Little Rock Supercenter would never feel normal again. Janet wasn't new to the job. She'd been working as a fitting room attendant for a year and a half. By then, she knew the routine. The cart full of abandoned hangers, the constant calls to unlock doors, the customers complaining about sizes. And she knew what closing time felt like. There's a hush in Walmart after 9:30 at night when the aisles start to empty. The speakers still play that tinny soft rock, but everything else feels hollow. The hum of the air conditioning, the squeak of carts echoing too loud in the cavernous space. That Tuesday night in September 2019 was supposed to be ordinary. Janet was tired, already thinking about getting home, kicking off her shoes, maybe reheating leftover pasta. She moved stall to stall, doing what she always did, checking for forgotten bags, gum wrappers stuck to the mirrors, scuff marks on the doors. It was when she reached stall number 3 that she noticed it. A ceiling tile. Just a little off. Tilted, like someone had touched it recently. At first, she thought it was nothing. Maintenance probably hadn't set it back right. But something about it nagged at her. Janet had this habit. Her managers always said she was too thorough. She couldn't leave things unchecked. So she dragged over the little step stool, climbed up and pushed at the corner of the tile. That's when her breath caught. Behind the panel wasn't dust or loose wiring. It was a lens. Black, round, unmistakable. A camera. She froze, her body rigid on the step stool. For a long moment she just stared, her pulse thudding in her ears. This wasn't some cheap store security cam either. Janet could see multiple devices, tucked into the shadows, cables, sensors, a blinking light on a transmitter. The realization came all at once, heavy and sickening. Someone had been watching, not just tonight, not just today. For months. Women, children, families trying on clothes under the harsh fluorescent lights, thinking they were alone. And all this time, eyes had been in the ceiling. Janet stumbled down, nearly tripping off the stool. She backed against the wall, clutching her chest, her throat dry. She wanted to scream. But the fitting rooms were empty now, and the silence pressed on her like a weight. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling, and called her shift manager. Her voice shook as she explained what she'd seen. But even as she spoke, she felt something, an unease crawling under her skin, because the ceiling above her. She swore she heard a faint creak, like weight shifting, like someone moving up there. She grabbed her bag and fled, refusing to look back until she was out under the harsh glow of the Walmart parking lot lights. The police came. They inspected the ceiling, the crawl space above, and what they found made headlines across Arkansas. Multiple cameras professionally installed, motion sensors, wireless transmitters, backup batteries. Whoever set it up hadn't been experimenting. They'd been planning, and they'd been recording for months. The system was traced back to Harold Peterson, a maintenance contractor. He'd worked on the store during a renovation and had perfect access to the ceilings. The news spread fast. It was on local TV, plastered on Facebook, whispered in line at the diner off Highway 70. Parents pulled their kids out of Walmart for weeks. Past customers wondered if they had been caught on film. And Janet, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the dark, round lens staring back at her. Every creak of her house at night made her flinch. She stopped using fitting rooms altogether. Even at other stores, she'd avoid them, walking out with clothes she wasn't sure would fit. But the worst was when she returned to Walmart for her next shift. Because once you've seen it, once you've known, you can't unknow, and every time she looked up at those ceiling tiles, she couldn't shake the feeling that some of them still weren't quite flush. Harold was arrested. His home was raided. Investigators found servers filled with terabytes of footage from not just this Walmart, but other stores across multiple states. He went to prison. 25 years. People said justice was served. But for Janet, the story didn't end there. Because weeks after Harold's arrest, she went into another Walmart, just across town. She wasn't working, just running in for groceries. She grabbed a basket, pushed through the crowd, kept her head down. But when she passed the fitting rooms, her eyes flicked upward, and in stall number 4, she saw it. A ceiling tile. Slightly skewed. Janet froze in the middle of the aisle. Her stomach turned cold, her hands damp against the basket's plastic handle. Stall number 4. A ceiling tile. Tilted just slightly out of line. It could have been nothing. It could have been. But after everything she had seen, everything she had lived through, she couldn't convince herself of that. The store around her carried on like normal. Kids whining in the toy aisle, an old man coughing near produce, the crackle of the intercom calling for a price check on aisle 7. But Janet's world had gone silent. Her heartbeat filled her ears, pounding hard and fast until she couldn't hear anything else. She wanted to walk away. She wanted to tell herself it was just loose maintenance or poor construction, or anything that didn't mean what she feared. But her feet wouldn't move. She stared up at that ceiling tile for what felt like forever. And then, she thought, she saw it. Just the faintest glint of glass. A lens. That night, Janet barely made it home. She sat in her car in the Walmart parking lot for nearly half an hour, hands clutching the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. She kept expecting to see someone step out from between the cars, some shadow, some figure watching her. By the time she pulled into her driveway, her nerves were frayed raw. She didn't sleep. She sat on her couch, lights on, TV muted, listening to every creak of her house. At one point she swore she heard something on the roof. Scratching, shifting weight. When she finally closed her eyes, she dreamed of ceiling tiles lifting. Dark hands pulling them back, red dots glowing in the rafters. She woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. Janet told herself she wouldn't go back to Walmart. Not that one. Not any of them. But life in a small Arkansas town didn't leave many options. Groceries, school supplies, prescriptions. Walmart was where people went, where everyone went, and in a way, that was the scariest part. Because if it could happen once, if it could happen in her store, with her co-workers and her managers, it could happen anywhere. And who was to say Harold was the only one? The police had assured her that the system was dismantled, that no one else was involved. But small-town cops, they weren't always thorough. Janet had seen the way some of them smirked when she tried to explain the paranoia that wouldn't let her sleep. Ma'am, it was just one guy. He's behind bars now, you don't need to worry. But they didn't understand. They hadn't seen the way Harold's setup was designed for the long haul. They hadn't seen the precision, the planning, the money behind it. One man, sure. But how could one man build all that? And if he did, what if there were others just like him? Janet started noticing things. When she walked into Walmart late at night, the fluorescent lights felt too harsh. Too bright in some places, too dim in others. Shadows gathered in the rafters, and sometimes she swore they moved when she looked directly at them. She'd hear the soft rattle of air vents, like something crawling above. And every time she passed the fitting rooms, her chest tightened until she could barely breathe. Sometimes she'd swear she heard faint clicking noises like a shutter, like a lens adjusting, even when no one was inside. Her friends told her it was trauma, that she needed therapy. Maybe she did. But Janet couldn't shake the feeling that Walmart itself had changed, like the building knew, like it remembered. The automatic doors seemed to hiss too loud when they closed behind her, sealing her inside. The long aisles stretched further than they should, the shelves looming higher, the fluorescent bulbs buzzing like they were trying to say something. The fitting rooms were the worst. No matter which store she went to, there was always at least one ceiling tile that seemed a little off, just a little. Halloween rolled around and Walmart filled its aisles with fake cobwebs, plastic skeletons, and rows of pumpkin candy buckets. But in the fitting rooms where Janet now refused to go alone, the decorations felt wrong. Paper bats dangled near the ceiling, brushing against the tiles. She couldn't look at them without imagining hidden cameras behind their wings. One evening, she passed by as a little girl darted into a stall with a princess costume. The child's mother laughed, calling after her. Janet's stomach knotted. Her eyes flicked upward. The ceiling tile above stall 3 sagged just slightly, and when the little girl giggled behind the door, Janet swore she heard it again. That faint click. She reported it. Again. The store manager sighed, promised to have maintenance look at it, but Janet could see it in his eyes. He didn't take her seriously. To him, she was just the paranoid fitting room lady. That night, Janet lingered in the parking lot watching. The Walmart sign buzzed faintly in the dark, casting a pale glow over rows of parked cars. A handful of employees walked out, laughing, carrying their bags. Then the store went quiet. The glass doors slid shut. The lights inside dimmed, and Janet saw it up in the second-floor windows near the ceiling. A red light. Blinking, steady, watching. For Janet Williams, Walmart would never again be a store. It had become something else. A place of eyes, a place of ceilings that breathed, a place where privacy had died. And every time she stepped inside, she wondered if Harold Peterson was behind bars. Who was watching her now?